Alright, for this design what we're going to do is we're going to build the frame. We got to go to wireframe, and now we need to build the step that arches across this part. So this one's kind of weird. It's going to arch up and over at an oddball angle. So how are we going to build that? If we look at it sideways right here, it seems like it cuts up and over. But if you look at it sideways, like if you look at it from the top, it seems like it arches around on the part. So how do we do that? All that is it's just a straight line over and a line up across the design. So if we look at the tangency point right here, that's the max tangency point. So that's the one that we want to be looking at on the design. So first thing we want to do for that is let's build for the arch line across the unit, and that's nice and flat. So if we look at that arch line across the unit, we need to build it upwards to the height of roughly where that item's happening. So let's build a plane up. So let's grab this lower plane and let's plane upward. When we plane upward, we can pull the dot and it'll give you roughly the location. I'm going to look sideways on it right here, and it looks like 0.5 is really close. You could say 0.53. So mine, I'm going to say 0.5, 0.53. If you're within 50 thou of this, you're okay. There's no rules on that. This is really a design scenario. So then once you get that into place, that's going to set up for your arch across your design. So now we need to come in and we need to build that arch. So let's start our sketch. Our sketch is going to be a nice little arch across the design, and we're going to try to nail it right down the middle right there of that fillet, because that's roughly where that tangency point is going to be on it. So once we've got that into place, then we should be good. We can say OK, and now we can start to sweep. Make sure when you start to sweep, we want to be in surfacing, and then we can start our sketch. You can either pick this side or the other side, so you can flip it with the little pink arrow if you wish. And then once we do that, we can turn it sideways like this and get the rough angle. So we know we're off at an angle that direction. We want to be higher than the part, and then on this one right here, we want to be roughly straight out. So just follow the dotted line. Once you've got that into place, you can hit check. We can shift back so you can see if it's looking right for the surfacing. Does that surface make it all the way through the part? Yes, it does. So we are good as gold there. Next thing you might want to do is put the fillet into place. So let's grab a round and let's put it right there on the edge. Pull it up. On this one right here, let's go with the 3/8. That looks good. And now we're good. So now we're ready for trimming and bringing in our base profile of our part. So first thing we would want to do is we want to take this top edge and this body right here, and we'd want to merge them together. So how do we do that? Let's hit save first, and let's touch this profile and then touch this carpet up on top. We'll hit merge. And then when we hit merge, we want to flip the pink arrows to where it keeps the body down below dotted. So the body's down below is dotted here, and the body's dotted up here. So once that's flipped, that's correct, and then we hit check. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to merge that entity with this one. So touch in space, click here, and then click the main body and hit merge. This one, it seems to be projecting. It's trying to keep the lid part of it. We don't want the lid part of it. We want to hit project downwards, and we want to keep the lower body and the right side body in place. Hit check, and now we've got that body into place. Now it's looking pretty good. Looks right for the design. Now the only thing we need to do is let's move it over to wireframe and take a look at what we have for fillets. So if we look at this, a large fillet here, when it gets offset in, is going to have a tendency to get bigger. If we have a small fillet here and it gets offset in, it's going to go to nothing. So those are some of the chaoses that you can go to on your designs. So you just got to watch it and make sure it's machinable on the design. So let's look at fillets for the design. I want to put a nice tiny fillet here and still make it machinable on the inside. So if I go a tiny fillet on this edge, let's go back to shade mode. On that edge right there, if I were to put a large fillet on that, then if it were to go inside on the profile, it would have a tendency to get smaller. So you guys make the guess there. I like the tendency of keeping it nice and tiny. To me, it looks good. I might lose it on the inside, but it's okay. I can always put another one into place. Let's see what happens. We'll go with the 12. And then let's round with the 12 all the way around on this ramp edge. So here we've got to pick this edge. And that one looks pretty good. To me, that looks nice for the design. Alright. I could go a little bit smaller if I wanted to. So let's even go a 90. What's nice is you can see the arch happen here and it doesn't sharpen. So that makes it nice for a ball and melt to travel on the design. Now, once we've got that into place, I'll hit save. And the next thing we need to do is we need to start to thicken the part. Now we're going to try to jump into solids for the part. So when we touch it, we hit thicken. Thicken is going to have a tendency to tell you the thickness that it can get. And if you're in the solids mode, you can see it by projecting it inward or outward. And that's where you're going to see how big you can make the part. So if you're inward, you notice that, geez, this part isn't going to allow you that much to thicken on the inside. If we look at it right there, it's giving me a certain value of thickness on the inward, and then if I try to go for like 19 and hit check, it doesn't, it fails. You see how that works? So now if I come back and watch, we'll get out. If I look at those fillets that I did, if I look at this fillet right here and I look at this fillet, if they're going inside, they're getting smaller. So there's my problems and difficulties that I could have on the design. So let's take a look at building those rounds maybe at a different time. So let's delete those out, and let's even delete this one out, and let's see what happens when we try for the offset. If we grab here and we do the thicken on the value, you can see how it's thickening on the inside, and it's telling us, okay, you're going to about 100 thou. Usually when it's guessing right here, it's right. So let's see. If we go back here and we go with 150, let's try that. And then we hit check on it, then it gives us 150. If you cannot see it at this time, then what you can do is you can hide the images. But right now I'm going to go to wireframe because it's a little bit easier for me to see. And now I can see the inside and what they look like. So now if I want to put a large fillet here on this edge of 12 thousandths, then I add the 150, then I could get the other fillet on the inside. It would go down to 0 or nothing, but I would also want to make it easier for a ball end mill on the inside. So if I go 12 thousandths on a ball end mill on the inside, I might get it up a little bit farther, like 20. If I use 20, they can use a 3/16 on the design. I'll hit check. Now I'll try to ball end mill all the way around on the inside here, and I'll go with 20 so they can use a ball end mill all the way around on the inside. Now on the top edge on the outside, I want that thing to be nice and tiny. So there, I don't want it to be 20. Let's go with just 100 thou and see what that looks like. So now we'll go back to the shade mode, and it looks really nice for the design. It looks nice and natural. It's got a nice look for the design of the profile of the part. Now, Next thing we need to do is we need to fill in the body, but there is a bad thing that happens whenever you thicken something. Sometimes you don't know if this is flat. Sometimes it tapers up. Since we used the line right here that was just off of 90 degrees, more than likely this is not flat. So the best thing that you can do here is you can chop just a tad off your part. So grab this plane and we're going to extrude cut just a small amount off the profile of the design. We're going to use a giant rectangle and we're going to pick it from there to there. And you can see it in space. And then we're going to say, okay, when we're cutting, we want to cut down through the part. If you hit extrude or hit return like that, make sure you're removing material, and then you only want to remove, let's say, about 30 thousandths on the part. When you see that 30 thousandths coming off, you're going to see it orange all the way around the rim. If you only see half the rim, cut a little bit more. So let's go with 20 thousandths, and that looks good all the way around the rim. So now we've got that rim out of there. We might have to hide our sketches, so I'm going to hide my old sketches and hide these. And now I can start to look at the profile. The next thing I need to do is I need to put my holes in place. So how do I put those holes in place? I need to call for, right here, I need to call for some type of axis. So let's see if we can get an axis there. And I did. Now I need to pull for this profile, pull an axis, and then pull for this profile, pull an axis, and then pull for this profile right there. Turn that one and pull an axis. So once you have all four of those into play, now you can take a look at building the cut all the way down, or not cut, the body of what you're going to put that socket head cap screw in. So we start on this top edge we just created by the extrude cut. Off of that we start an extrude. When we start that extrude, we normalize, and then if we look at it, we've got the center of the hole here. So if you want to pull references, you can pull references off of these four axes that you just made. So say 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gave us a little dot to play on right there. So now if we pull out for doing the profile of our counter bore, I'm going to pull to the middle profile right there, and then all of the rest of them, I'm going to let them pop, but I've got to be inside the wall. So right there, I'm going to pull inside the wall a little bit. This one inside the wall, and then this one inside the wall. Do they have to be a perfect size, Frank? No, not really. On this one, if you want to make them perfect all the way around, yes you can. But I'm just going to extrude down on the part right there with those. Now here's where it gets tricky, is you've got to be inside the wall. And then once you're inside the wall, you start the extrude, you flip the direction, and it is a solid, it's not a surface. On this one, we want to go up to next, which is right there. And what you'll see when it goes up to next is you'll see it kind of close off and not go through the part for your design. If you're outside the wall, you'll see this fill it out there, and you don't want that. Once we've got that into place, now we can run around. I'm going to show you a trick on how to sharpen these images and tone them down to where they're not so bright. So if we go over to view, we orientate, we come into the images. Here are your images right here. If you wish to turn those off, you can. So I'm going to have you turn them off because the next stuff I pretty much know by heart, and I can explain it on the run and get the images out of your way. So let's take this one off. So if we've got that image, we hit hide, and then on that it'll hide that image for the design. You've got the side image, you can hit hide. You've got the right image, you can hit hide. So now if we want to see something, we can just look over here for the design. Now that's what we have for the design, so we'll hit check, and we'll go in, and we'll start for some rounds. We want to push down control, and we want to get around all these edges. And the thing you got to watch out here is the ball end mill. For whatever you're using on the design. So right here, if we look across, ball and mill looks pretty good, and I'm going to go for 0.2 again. So there it looks pretty good for the design, and now we've got the cast. So there's the casted part that we could build, and we need to build what else? We need to build the counter bore holes. Counter bore holes can get tricky. Because this surface is slanted, you cannot grab it for a counter bore. So what you do is you grab the bottom plane of the part, or you grab this surface and you make a plane off of that. So we're going to grab plane, we're going to project it up into space, and this is where our counter bore holes are going to start on the design. So I'm going to start them at 122. You can get it as close as you can if you want, and then hit check. Next thing we want to do is we want to call for the hole. When we call for the hole, it might not be going the right direction. So let's first come in and let's project this hole. Grab that little white dot, push down shift, and then drop it on that axis. Alright, so if you get it in location correctly, mine went over to the far axis. Let me see if I'm going to hit cancel and start it again. So go here, and then I'm going to grab that plane. On that plane, I want it to be on that axis right there. There we go. Now, once we've got it into play, I'm going to hit for the hole. Off of that, I'm going to go up through all, I think, and then placement will flip, and you can start to see it coming in. It's pretty tiny at this time. I think we need to go all the way up to 3/8, almost 3/8 to 1/4-20. Let's try 1/4-20. Now, once we do 1/4-20, we are not going to see the counter bore, and we're not going to see a lot of stuff. So first thing we want to do is take the threads off. If you want to see what's happening, turn shape on. Then right here we add. Then next thing we want to do is counter bore. Next thing we want to do is make sure you're through all. And then once you see all of this, it looks pretty good. Now you just got to make sure that you're going down far enough into the part. So at this time on this cover, 1/4-20 looks good, and I'm going to go 0.5 into the design. So that one looks pretty good. I'm going to go even farther. So let's go 0.9 into the design. So if I go 0.9 into the design, it looks pretty good, and it sinks down far enough on the design. So once I've done this, we've got the profile, everything's in to go, and then here we can also look at how much it's giving me. Is it giving me a clearance hole? No, it's just giving me the size of the thread, so that's not good. So we want to do a clearance hole, and we want it to be free fit. So 266 is excellent for a 1/4. Now we say OK, we hit Control C, we grab this plane again, we go Control V as in vector, we drag with Shift down, and then we drop it on that axis, and you're going to see the hole come into place. Do the same thing again, Control V, and then we drag and we put Shift and we drop it on that hole. And then the last one, we hit Control V. I'm selecting the plane first, Control V as in vector, and then I'm Shift and then letting go with that axis right there. So right there we've got all the profiles, we've got the nice little cast on the design, and then we're going to hit save. I'm going to stop here, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to build the recess rim, and then also we'll build the nice little upper plateau kind of raised surface there on both the designs. Talk to you guys in a minute. Have a good day. Bye.